Hey, welcome back everybody. Great to see you out there on this Wednesday, and we've got a very active time here in the world of weather, including multiple very high impact storm systems on the way, really starting as soon as within the next couple of days. So in today's video, I'm going to break that down for you, give you the latest information we have, and tell you everything you need to know to be prepared. Now, I will ask, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely consider doing so. Like the video if you like it, and of course, if you're new to the channel, comment, let me know where you're watching from, and kind of what you're seeing out there where you live and what you're expecting with these oncoming storm systems. A couple other things I will mention here very quickly before we get started. I'm going to try a little bit of a different format here. I'm going to try to shorten the length of this video a little bit. I'm hoping to get this closer to 20 minutes compared to 30 minutes. I think that's just a little bit more of a reasonable time to give you information that is important, but also not so long that maybe I'm boring you to tears. So I'll definitely try that. And if you have a lot of questions, or maybe if there's a little less information in this video, I'll do a live stream later this week once we get a little closer to this event, probably either Friday night or Saturday morning is the most likely time that will occur, but I'll keep you updated throughout the week on when exactly I plan to do that live stream. With all that said, though, I think that's enough information here. Let's go ahead and jump on into your forecast. Now, starting off here, taking a look at kind of the latest satellite imagery we have out there, you'll notice things are relatively quiet. However, we do have a couple different disturbances. One kind of here in the southeast, you'll notice we've got some cloud cover moving on through. That likely to bring a little bit of rain today to some folks, and maybe, just maybe, a couple snow flurries tonight for others, and I'll break that down for you here in just a moment as well. Now, outside of there, we have had a very foggy morning for much of kind of the Great Lakes region, as we do have some pretty strong flow coming off the lakes here. That is helping to lead to a couple lake effect snow showers, but also just very cloudy, foggy conditions as well for a lot of folks up that way. Now, taking a look at radar imagery and our watches and warnings, this is when things begin to look, I guess, a little more exciting here. Obviously, again, here's that big area of disturbed weather through much of the southeast, from New Orleans, kind of through the I-10 corridor towards Florida, and then back up towards Alabama and Mississippi. But for our friends back out west, you folks are already getting in on the action that is going to be our next storm system here in the east. Kind of going into this coming weekend for a lot of folks. So we do have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories already up for a big section of the west, from the Sierra Nevadas in California all the way back through the Four Corners regions, where a good helping of snow is on the way for those higher terrains. Now let's go ahead and break that down for you. All this storm is starting out west, so we'll start there. And throughout much of today, expect continued rain and snow showers depending on your elevation. Obviously, higher terrains in Nevada, Oregon, Washington State, likely to get some snow, same for California. But those lower elevations, plenty of rain on the way throughout today as well. Now you'll notice this is about 8 o'clock tonight local time. Again, those snow showers continuing to fly around those higher elevations as rain moving into lower elevations. And by the time we're waking up tomorrow, we've got a lot of snow here in the Four Corners. If you'll notice all this blue showing up here in Arizona, Utah, Colorado, New Mexico. If you live out there, let me know, and definitely give me an update on how much snow you're seeing out there as we get into tomorrow morning. And as we get into tomorrow afternoon, that storm system that is going to once again be responsible for our impactful weather in the east, now moving into the southern Great Plains, into northern Texas, Oklahoma. Could see some snow showers out that way, not out of the question, but really a lot of rain for most folks in that general area. And you'll notice that continues moving off towards the north and east and beginning to get better organized. And as that is occurring, still dealing with scattered rain and snow showers back into the Pacific Northwest, specifically going into our Thursday afternoon and into our early Friday morning. All right, that's kind of the west coast here. Let's take a look now at the east coast. Again, we do have this kind of disturbance moving on through the southern tier of the country currently. That is bringing some showers to a lot of folks from Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and by the time we get into about sunset tonight, South Carolina could get in on some of those snow showers as well. I think the I-20 corridor from Columbia back towards Florence could see, rain showers. I might have said snow showers, but rain showers in that general area. Now, the chance to see snow showers would likely be in the highest terrains of North Georgia, maybe a couple flurries in upstate South Carolina, but unfortunately, just this precipitation is very suppressed, meaning it's going to be quite far south and not very heavy. So maybe again a couple flurries get squeezed out here, but more than likely just some drizzle here from the I-20 corridor from Birmingham, Atlanta, Columbia throughout this afternoon and evening before eventually drying out. By the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, you'll notice that storm system moves offshore. Now, outside of the southeast, we do have snow showers falling up here into the Great Lakes from Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York State, Vermont. Could definitely see some accumulations there in isolated spots up there. But again, that's really just an appetizer. We then clear out going into tomorrow afternoon, and you'll notice going into this weekend, back out towards Texas here is that bigger storm system beginning to get its act together, and that is going to lead to some big-time unsettled weather going into this weekend further east. And we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. Alrighty, let's talk about this storm system now. We'll start in the southern Great Plains, where I think we'll have the most impactful weather out of this here from Oklahoma, Texas, starting within the next couple of days before bigger impacts begin to move east, eventually working into the southeast. And by the time this storm system makes it to the mid-Atlantic and northeast, we'll have all-out winter storm conditions for a lot of folks. So again, we're going to start here in the southern Great Plains, where we could see some snow and some rain. And let's go ahead and time this out for you. This is going into Thursday evening. You'll notice that rain and snow beginning to work inland. Best chance to see some snow likely going to be in the Texas and Oklahoma panhandle, with rain more likely east and south of there from Oklahoma City back down towards Dallas-Fort Worth. Now, eventually, this continues working east. By the time we're waking up Friday morning, we've got widespread rain, maybe even some thunder rolling on through here from Corpus Christi up through Galveston, Houston, and into sections of eastern Texas and much of Louisiana. Now, to the north of there, we could see some snow through northern Oklahoma. I think the Ozarks of Arkansas, not out of the question to see some snow showers out of this, but likely not too big of an event for some of these areas. Before eventually going into Friday afternoon, we really just got some leftover rain showers moving on through Oklahoma, and the storm system begins to get its act together and pushes further east into Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and we're clearing out in this part of the country for our Saturday afternoon with much nicer conditions. Snowfall totals through this part of the country, again, not a lot. I think half an inch to an inch possible here through Oklahoma and northern Arkansas, especially kind of the closer you get towards Missouri. I think about half an inch of snow towards an inch is a little more likely. Maybe a couple inches, though, possible here in the extreme northern Texas panhandle and the extreme western Oklahoma panhandle, where we'll have enough cold air to kind of wring out some snow showers in that part of the country. All right, now moving this on towards the southeast a little bit. Let me back this up, make sure we're looking at the right storm system here. Again, we've got rain. It's going to be the bigger story in this part of the country. This is Friday afternoon. You're looking at that shield of rain working eastbound through Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, eventually working up into Alabama for our Friday evening. Now, again, we could see some severe weather out of this as well. Not out of the question here along the immediate Gulf Coast from New Orleans through the Florida Panhandle. So we're going to have just enough instability kind of getting onshore that some of these thunderstorms could become severe, including the threat of an isolated tornado. Not out of the question. Now, this is getting about midnight Friday night into Saturday, and you'll notice still very rainy conditions, and you'll also notice snow beginning to break out into western North Carolina. Don't worry, we're going to go more in depth on that area in just a second, but for now, I'm just going to focus on kind of the rain here to the south of there. Now, again, this is midnight Friday going into Saturday, that rain continuing. Very heavy rainfall through south central Georgia overnight Friday. And by the time we're waking up Saturday, we've got very heavy rainfall from Columbia down towards Charleston, back down towards Tallahassee, Florida, getting in on, again, these heavy rainfall rates. Could easily dump a quick couple inches of rain, not out of the question. And that continues up the I-95 corridor into Florence, into Greenville, Fayetteville, North Carolina as well. Now, going through the afternoon Saturday, that rain lingers a little bit, but by the time the sun's going down Saturday and we're getting into the overnight, likely really clearing out with just some leftover drizzle for some isolated spots here, but a much nicer Saturday evening, and especially by the time we get into our Sunday afternoon here, you'll notice conditions really improve and going into the following week. Now, again, the bigger story here will be severe weather. Our day 3 outlook here. This is for our Friday afternoon and evening. Again, we do have the chance for some isolated severe storms here. Again, from really the I-10 corridor, New Orleans kind of eastbound towards the Florida Panhandle, going to be the most likely to see some of those strong storms. So, again, that's the biggest impact in this part of the country. All right, now let's start moving this into some places that are really going to be impacted by the storm system. I think the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast easily going to see the highest impacts out of this first storm at least, and we'll go ahead and move this ahead. Again, this is that kind of first storm system tonight. You'll notice some isolated kind of areas of blue and pink showing up, again indicating maybe a couple snow flurries mix in with some of that light drizzle, but don't hold your breath over it. Definitely not guaranteed. Again, though, we're clear until about Friday evening and overnight. This is kind of where we were looking at on the other map. Midnight Friday into Saturday, you'll notice this rain working up into the mid-Atlantic and likely starting as some snow here in western North Carolina, maybe a little bit of sleet or freezing rain in kind of the foothills from Henderson County back down towards Polk County, North Carolina, and riding up eventually into the Triad as we move this a little bit further ahead into time. All right, so this is waking up Saturday morning, and this is whenever we're going to have some big-time problems for a lot of folks. Again, if you're watching from kind of this line I have drawn eastbound towards Greenville, North Carolina, Fayetteville, up towards Raleigh, likely just a rain event this entire time, as a lot of warm air getting pushed in from the Atlantic. Now, as that warm air is getting pushed in, though, we do have enough cold air kind of locked into the mountains and foothills here that we're going to see some snow and ice. So I think Greensboro, North Carolina, back down towards Hickory, North Carolina, Hendersonville, and kind of into the extreme northern sections of upstate South Carolina. I mean, Table Rock, the Highway 11 corridor northbound, could see some ice here early Saturday morning with snow trying to hold on into the extremely higher elevations of North Carolina. Now, going later on into Saturday afternoon, it really turns to just about rain for everybody in North and South Carolina. So, again, an icy commute potentially possible there for Saturday morning. But by the time we get to the afternoon, it's just good old-fashioned rain for much of the Carolinas and Southeast Virginia. Now, at the same time here, though, snow breaking out into West Virginia, Northern Virginia, and Southern Pennsylvania, and this is where we're going to really cash in on some bigger snow totals here. Luckily, enough cold air that most of this should stay snow, but we are going to have a corridor here of kind of some icing, I think, right along sections of I-95 back down towards Central Virginia. Could easily see some sleet and freezing rain accumulate out of this. And eventually going later on into the afternoon here, again, an all-out snowstorm for West Virginia, the mountains of Virginia, and now getting up into Pennsylvania. And you'll notice, very importantly, this kind of ice line, this rain-snow line right along Washington, D.C. Such a tough forecast for D.C., always with these snowstorms. Right now, I think an icy kind of start, or maybe snow to ice, then to rain at the end is the most likely scenario in D.C., and you'll notice again, as the low pressure gets closer, that warm air trying to erode some of that snow here along the I-95 corridor. But if you're just far enough inland, about 50 miles, I'd say, in from I-95, kind of here through much of western Maryland, central or south central Pennsylvania, very heavy snowfall here through the evening hours of Saturday. And even by the time we're waking up Sunday, that snow continuing before eventually this moves up further into the I-95 corridor. And again, I'll zoom in further here in just a second towards the northeast. But we clear out a little bit going into our kind of Sunday afternoon after a very eventful Saturday night, but definitely some leftover snow and rain showers here on the backside as a secondary piece of energy kind of swings on through for much of the day Sunday, again bringing scattered rain and snow showers before much nicer, clearer conditions Monday before that next storm system kind of begins to eye itself on this part of the country. All right, starting with ice totals here. Again, I'm really concerned about ice here from some of the foothills of North Carolina up into the foothills of Virginia. I think a tenth of an inch of ice is going to be pretty easy to come by. Isolated spots could see a quarter of an inch here, especially kind of where some of that cold air tries to trap itself in here into the foothills of northern North Carolina and southern Virginia. Again, we'll be watching that, and I'm sure we'll get some pretty crazy video for some of those folks. Now, if you're watching in Charlotte, Greenville, Spartanburg, this kind of area of the I-85 corridor, really rain's going to be a bigger deal here more than anything. Could start as some brief ice, not out of the question. A lot of the times this cold air damming likes to hang on a little longer than advertised by the models. But again, this is going to be more of a foothills event for North Carolina than kind of the I-85 corridor for South Carolina and North Carolina. All right, snowfall totals in the mid-Atlantic, again, could start with a little bit of snow here in the North Carolina mountains, maybe half an inch to an inch. Same story kind of here into portions of central Virginia before that rain takes over. But the biggest winters in this part of the country likely going to be in the mountains of Virginia and up here into portions of Maryland, specifically western Maryland there and into south central Pennsylvania. I think 3 to 5 inches is pretty likely for a lot of those folks. With, of course, the lower in elevation you are, the lower amounts, maybe closer to 1 to 3 inches. Alrighty, now let's move on into the northeast with this storm system. Again, pretty clear the next couple of days. Some scattered lake effect snow showers definitely possible, but here comes the storm. This is Saturday afternoon, still dry for most folks, but here's that shield of snow slowly working in, starting really in Pennsylvania. Eventually, by the time we get into Saturday afternoon and evening, we've once again got an all-out winter storm ongoing. And sure enough, here's that ice kind of rain snow line right along the I-95 corridor. Likely rain in Baltimore, I think, for most of this storm. A place like Philly, it's a tough call, right on that rain snow line. We'll have to watch the trends. Same story for New York City. Again, a lot of these big major coastal areas right on that rain snow line, which makes these snowfall forecasts very difficult. If you're further inland, though, kind of towards Scranton, northern Jersey, kind of up towards sections of the Hudson River Valley here, you're going to really stay more snow than anything for a lot of this. And this will likely be one of the bigger snowstorms we've had in at least a couple of years here, considering how dull last year was. You'll notice here going into Saturday evening, about the time the sun is setting, again, very heavy wet snow falling, potentially in a place like New York City, not out of the question, but especially, again, northern Jersey, kind of there up into Connecticut, could see some big time snow out of this. Same story for Rhode Island and western Massachusetts, as once again, going closer to midnight Saturday, big time heavy wet snowflakes falling for much of Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and even leftover snow back towards kind of Pennsylvania and northern New Jersey at this point, before things really kind of get going here into the Boston area. This is about the time we're waking up Sunday morning, a very heavy band of snow moving along the I-95 corridor. Again, Connecticut up through Boston, very heavy totals. If you're kind of back towards the Cape, maybe a bit more of a rain-snow mix here like we're going to see in Long Island, but if you're just far enough inland there, again, kind of towards Boston and Providence, I think this is going to be a pretty nice snowstorm for a lot of folks. And even throughout the day Sunday, some back-end snow and snow showers before, again, we clear out going into our Monday. So a very snowy scene up here for the Northeast, and looking at some of these totals with our blend of models, again, some high-end areas, I think half a foot of snow very likely here into northern New Jersey, kind of this area, and then back towards Boston, again, about half a foot of snow, pretty likely with isolated spots seeing a bit more. And again, as I said, if you're watching kind of here along the coastline, a little bit of a tougher forecast. Right now, dusting towards a couple of inches. We'll just have to watch those trends over time. All right, that's the first storm system. That's the impacts we're expecting with it. Let's quickly summarize the second storm system, and here it comes going into this Sunday. Again, Sunday, we've still got some leftover snow in the Northeast from this area of low pressure showing up on your map, but here comes a massive trough into the western United States, and that's going to allow a storm system to kind of form here and ride up through the middle part of the country. And you'll notice our latest GFS model really deepens this, and very strong low pressure over Texas by the time we get into Monday, Tuesday, eventually over the Ohio River Valley for our Tuesday, Wednesday, and then eventually working up into Canada here, going later on into next week. Now, some impacts with this that we already know about, again, still about a week away from the worst impacts, but we are likely going to see some severe weather. Storm Prediction Center already has an area outlined from Houston towards Shreveport, through New Orleans, Mobile, Biloxi, and even back towards Destin. Likely to see some severe weather here. Again, this is going into that next Monday, Tuesday time frame. The other big story with this storm is obviously going to be some snowfall, and you'll notice here we already have the potential for winter storm conditions here about 6 days from now through much of the central part of the country, from Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, northern Missouri, and then going into day 7, the Great Lakes, and up into Ontario and Quebec, getting in on some of those higher end chances of some winter storm conditions. So we'll definitely break that down more as we get a little closer to it, but we've still got this first storm system to kind of run on through going into the next couple of days, about the next 5 days. So again, just to summarize, very active time ahead, and if you have any questions that, again, maybe I didn't answer in this video, feel free to ask me in the comments, and I'll try my best to get back to you as soon as possible with some answers. With all that said, though, again, hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday out there, and I'll see you all tomorrow.